Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the Overtime Podcast, a Cold Front Report multicast. I'm one of your two co-hosts, Clayton Garrett. You can find me on Twitter at CFR Clayton, and joining me as always.
My name is Jeff Uvino. You can find me on Twitter at RealJUVEINO.
We're gonna get into this AFC Championship matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. But before doing so, we have to talk about how the Bills got there. A 17-3 victory over the Lamar Jackson-led Ravens, a team that was on fire, seemed to be rolling on all cylinders. The two hottest teams, really not just in the conference, but almost you could argue the two hottest teams in the NFL, squaring off in the divisional round of the playoffs, and it ends with a 17-3 victory in Orchard Park. Jeff, what are your overall thoughts of the Bills' victory over the Ravens?
I mean, what is there to say? The Bills' defense earns them a victory, and they made big plays when they have to. I mean, the Bills got outgained in this game by the Ravens, 340 yards to 220. It didn't seem like it, but the Ravens ran the ball for 150 yards, and they did it on 4.7 yards per carry, whereas the Bills only had 32 yards on the ground for 2 yards per carry. That's right, 16 rushes for 32 yards for Buffalo in this game. Josh Allen only threw for 206 yards and one touchdown, and while he didn't throw the ball over, from a statistical standpoint, this doesn't look like a game that the Bills would be likely to win. However, they made big plays when they had to. They had the touchdown drive coming out of halftime, which is absolutely huge, and another reason why anytime any NFL team wins the coin toss, should always defer and get the choice in the second half, so you'll get the second half kickoff. And, you know, you don't even need to get me started on the Taron Johnson interception. We know what that was. We know what that meant to this game, to him, to that defense, and to the Bills fan base as a whole. I mean, just an absolutely unforgettable play from Taron Johnson there on a pass that really just shouldn't have been thrown by Lamar Jackson. That was just an absolute misread of the coverage. And I think that the Bills' defensive game plan resulted in that interception. And, you know, my hat is off to Leslie Frazier this week because he did an absolutely incredible job drawing up this game plan. And the Bills' defense won that football game.
Yeah, and, you know, the Bills' defense really did carry this overall effort for the Bills this past weekend. And let's go back to that pick six for a second, because, you know, there's a lot of people that talk about this play, and they say that this is one of the most franchise-altering plays in a really long time for the Buffalo Bills. And I don't know. I think my pan's playing. I don't know. I'm not sure. It's just not popping up on my screen for some reason. But it was a huge play. It really changed and dictated the direction of the game. It changed momentum entirely. And that played a huge part in the Bills being able to come out with a victory this past week. You know, you just talk about the situation. You know, the Ravens were driving. I believe they were inside the 5 or 10 yard line. And like you said, Taron Johnson read Lamar Jackson's eyes, picked it, and took all the green grass in front of him. And like you said, hats off to Leslie Frazier. This defense did a hell of a job against Lamar Jackson for the second time in 2 years. And you throw in those two missed kicks by Tucker, which never happens. You know, I thought it never happened last week when I saw him miss a kick against the Titans. And then he misses two against the Bills because the winds were swirling this time around again. But, you know, the Bills limiting them to 3 points. It was quite an effort for that defense. And if there's a defensive performance for Leslie Frazier to hang his head coaching hat on, this would be it. You know, you stop a team that's winning 6 games in a row, that their offense has been rolling on all cylinders ever since Lamar Jackson has come back, really. And, you know, let's talk about this defensive front for the Bills. As you see on your screen, Ed Oliver, who had a hell of a game, Harrison Phillips, who had a hell of a game. You know, this defensive line, they came ready to play. They came ready to play with an attitude. They came ready to play with speed. They came ready to play their game. And if you ask me, this defensive line, it's never really been their strength to bunker down, take on multiple blockers, and stop between the tackles. But what it has been their strength is getting past their blockers, swim moves, finesse rushing, and, you know, creating havoc by manufacturing pressure. And that's what the Bills did all game this past week. You know, Lamar Jackson was pressured a lot. He was pressured more so in this game than any game this season. And that really led to a huge defensive performance for the Bills, being able to collapse the pocket on Lamar Jackson and being able to give him some looks that were deceiving and ultimately give this defense the best opportunity to win.
Yeah, the Bills got pressure on the quarterback with 4 pass rushers this week, and that has not happened at all season. I remember sitting here, Clayton, talking about previewing the Arizona game, previewing the Seattle game, and you and I saying, how the hell can the Buffalo Bills not get pressure on the quarterback with just their front forward on defense pressuring the quarterback? And then we saw Leslie Frazier drum up blitzes throughout the second half of the season that involved linebackers, involved players such as A.J. Klein, involved the safeties, and they were able to start pressuring the quarterback and playing better as a defensive unit. In this game, the Bills' defensive line took it upon themselves to get that pressure and to really make an impact. Jerry Hughes had a tremendous game. 2 weeks ago on the show, you said that Jerry Hughes could be a big impact performer for the Bills in the playoffs. Afterwards, I held up my Jerry Hughes jersey that I happen to have sitting there, and you and I had a good laugh over that. But Jerry Hughes came to play in this game against the Ravens. He was all over the place, and they were containing Lamar as very well too. I thought Trent Murphy played well in this game. I know that's going to be hard for you to admit that happened, Clayton, that Trent Murphy played well, but he and Hughes really did a good job, and they were a big reason why Buffalo played so well. But it was a complete defensive performance.
It's never hard for me to admit anything. I don't know what you're talking about. I'll sit here and eat all the crow that I'm due for anything that normally results in a good thing for the Bills. And let's talk about Trent Murphy, because here's a guy who was a component in containing Lamar Jackson last year and being that edge defender, especially in the Bills defense and how they like to rush forward and you maintain your gap and you maintain your rush lane. Being that edge defender, that's a huge role, especially when you're facing a quarterback to the variety of Lamar Jackson who likes to scramble around, break the pocket, and improvise back there. So putting in Trent Murphy, who has been a healthy scratch for the better part of the last 6 weeks in favor of A.J. Epinesa, and Daryl Johnson, unfortunately, he had a knee injury entering this game, so he had to hit the inactive list, and they activate Trent Murphy, who made a big play during the duration of the game. You know, you saw him get in a box with Lamar Jackson, and he made the disciplined play. He broke down, and Lamar Jackson kind of juked himself into a 3-yard hole in the backfield, and Trent Murphy made the play that was needed to be made, and Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano both rallied to the tackle. And let's talk about those two for a second. You know, I really want to talk about the Bills defense. We will get a little bit into the Bills offense regarding this Ravens performance, but Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano. You know, Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano, I thought had an excellent game. Both of them. They both had a great game. Their reads, their run fits, their tackles. This is a team that only missed 12 tackles against the Ravens. And if you're going to beat a team that's predicated on running the ball and running down your throat, that's how you beat them, is you don't let them get a lot of yards after contact. You bring them down on first contact, and if you're not, you have a lot of guys there rallying to make the tackle that you may or may not have missed or help you get the guy down. And I thought it was a great effort by the second line of defense for the Bills defense. And I thought Tremaine Edmonds and Matt Milano, I think this game, it's impacted drastically if you remove those two competitors from the game. And they did a great job running sideline to sideline and filling their gaps. And you know, they're really that defensive line allowed them to play freely and play aggressive and attack the football. And when those two players are given that ability and they're allowed to attack and go for the football, they're very dangerous.
I think that the best word to describe the performance of this Buffalo defense is contain. The Bills contained the Ravens offense. Yes, they allowed the 340 yards of total offense, and they allowed 4.2 yards per carry to both Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins, and that those two backs each had 10 carries for 42 yards. Lamar had 9 carries for 34, Huntley 3 for 32. So they did get their yards. The Ravens rushing offense got their yards. You know, they performed like we know that they will every week because that's what their offense is built around. But they didn't have the big plays. They weren't able to have those big plays. And I want to talk about the job that the Bills linebackers did on the Baltimore tight ends. Mark Andrews, 4 catches, 28 yards. And the play that Taron Johnson took back for the pick 6 was targeted to Mark Andrews. So they really did a good job, both Johnson and the Bills linebackers and limiting their tight ends, because really that's how the Ravens can throw the ball. That's how they have success, is by using their tight ends, using backs out of the backfield. I mean, Dobbins had 3 catches, 51 yards, 31 of it, which came on one play. And then they didn't have a receiver go over 87 yards, with Hollywood Brown being the highest there on just 4 catches. So really a good job of contained by the Bills defense this week.
And really, the overall point that you're making, and you're kind of alluding to it by explaining the receiving totals and their statistics from this game, is, that's why I was confident in the Bills in this game. It is just the overall difference between the Ravens passing attack and their inability and their limitations with their skill players and what have you, compared to the Bills. And I want to talk about how this secondary did, the job that they did, the job that Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White, and Micah Hyde did. Josh Norman and Levi Wallace splitting reps 50-50 in this game. And, you're seeing Josh Norman get implemented into this defense a little more since the playoffs have come around. We had a few injuries lingering throughout the duration of the season. It really feels like they kind of let him heal up and get ready for this stretch, for their Super Bowl stretch, because that's what we're going to call it now, because they've won 2 playoff games. If they win one more, they're in the chip. And this really is their Super Bowl haul. This really is their Super Bowl window. So they got Josh Norman ready, and he brings an attitude to that defense that, I can see it on the field. He brings a level of confidence to that defense, a level of playmaking difference to that defense. And this secondary did a great job. Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde, I don't think those two get enough credit in the Bills' ability to stop this rushing attack for the Baltimore Ravens, because when you watch the Bills' defense, their ability to stop the run along the perimeter, because between the tackles has been their weakness all season. The perimeter, not so much. And the reason the perimeter is a strength rather than a weakness for this defense is because of Poyer and Hyde's ability to fill their lanes. Those are 2 guys that love playing up and close to the box, love playing up and close to the line of scrimmage. You don't see it very often where they're up at close to the line of scrimmage unless they're blitzing, but you do see them move closer to the box on a lot of occasions, and they're both very willing contributors in the run defense. And I think that's why the Bills' perimeter is so strong, is because you have those 2 smart veteran players on the back end that are willing to fill those lanes with all of the speed and aggression that necessary in order to bring guys down. They're not bad tacklers either. So both of those guys were intricate parts in not only stopping the Ravens' limited passing attack, but also stopping their rushing approach, in my opinion.
Yeah, Hyde and Poyer are just absolutely, invaluable to this Bills defense. They make a lot of things happen. I mean, you see them on the field pointing out coverages, directing some of the other younger or more inexperienced guys in the secondary, not Trey White, obviously, but some of the other guys, helping them where to go, seeing coverages, and they're very smart players, and they work so well together. And, we can say so many good things about this Bills defense, because I don't think any of us saw this type of performance coming from that unit. We thought going in that maybe it was a defensive game after seeing how Tennessee had played Baltimore the week before, but not 17-3 with, 7 of the points coming from the Bills defense itself. So really, if we're talking about all of the offensive output in this game, each team missed 2 field goals, but it was 10-3 without the Johnson pick 6. And that's a real ugly, gritty game. And it's not going to happen again next week. It's not going to happen when the Bills play the Chiefs. They're not going to hold them to 3 points. It's not going to happen. So the Bills are going to have to, figure out a way to produce more offensively, because we said it against the Colts. It was even more evident this week that the Bills struggled to get things going offensively. Josh didn't turn the ball over. Allen, 23 for 37, 206 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions. And for the second week in a row, well, longer than that, but for the second week in a row in the playoffs, Allen didn't make any throws that he shouldn't have. He didn't make any throws that really put the ball in danger. And by him not turning over the ball, he's putting his defense in a position, to succeed. I think that the lack of mistakes, the lack of turnovers has been crucial for Buffalo. I mean, let's face it, the 1 turnover in this game was the pick 6. That was the only turnover by either side. If the Bills are continuing to not turn the ball over on offense, that's the minimum. That's the minimum that they've been doing. Now I'd like to see them advance on that, improve on that, and get back into an area where they can score 30-plus points a game, because that is how they can beat the Kansas City Chiefs this coming week.
And it's going to be interesting to see how they beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And I really want to know how you felt about the pass-heavy approach to start this game. I'm not about to get on my soapbox here. I'm not. I'm not about to put Brian Dable's feet to the coal. I'm not. I'm not mad about this. I'm not as mad as some people would have anticipated after watching that performance and how they started the game. They set a record for the amount of pass plays in a row that they started this game with. And the one that wasn't a pass, it was a quarterback keep. He dropped back the pass and he ran and kept it himself. So, Jeff, what was your thought of the overall, just not even, I don't know, the lack of a rushing approach in this game and how bent they were on spreading it out and letting it fly against the Ravens?
Well, let me ask you this. Was there a rushing attempt in the first half? Was there a single rushing attempt in the first half?
Other than Josh Allen, no.
Good. That's what I wanted to see coming into this game. They played scared against the Colts. Brian Dable called the game against the Colts scared. He didn't want to open up the playbook. He wanted to keep the ball on the ground. He didn't want to turn it over, and he wanted to establish a run game that hadn't been there for the Bills the entire season. In this game, the Baltimore game, he scrapped that and he said, we're the Buffalo Bills. We have the hottest offense in the NFL. We've had the hottest offense in the NFL for over a month. So we're going to open it up and we're going to throw it against you. But we're going to do it smartly. And our quarterback is going to do it smartly. And while they didn't have a ton of success in the first half, as far as a completion percentage standpoint, I liked the approach. I thought that this was the correct approach against the Ravens. It's your strength on their strength. Your passing offense versus their secondary. Open it up and see what you can do. Now, obviously, it didn't work in this game. However, I don't think that going back to that run-first approach, the Indianapolis approach, we can call it, that they used in that game, is the correct way to go about the AFC Championship game. I don't think that's going to give you your best chance to succeed against the Chiefs. I'd like to see more of the Ravens-style play calling, the play calling that Dable used against the Ravens, than the play calling he used against the Colts. And now at halftime, everything is thrown out the window. Halftime adjustments are so big and so vast that, our game plan going in could be completely changed based on how that first half goes. But as far as his game plan going in and what he wanted to do, what he wanted to show everybody he was doing to start the game, I thought it was spot on. And you can argue with me because they didn't have success with it, because they only scored a field goal in the first half. But I thought they really did a nice job.
Oh, argue with the fact that they should have ran the ball more?
Yes.
See, this is the thing, is the last thing I want to do is contradict myself. But at the same time, every single matchup in the NFL is its own entity. Every single matchup has its own strengths, its own weaknesses. You have to take what you're given in every matchup. I am not the only one that watched the best running back in football get absolutely bottled up by this defense a couple weeks ago. Because I'll tell you what the Ravens really wanted was for the Bills to try and big boy them. Because if you try and big boy the Ravens, you are going to get big boyed out of your own stadium. You are going to get big boyed off your own field, and they will run through you, run over you on defense and on offense. Don't try and big boy the Ravens. That's a game you're going to lose. So what Brian Dable did was he spread them out and let it fly. What on this podcast and on Cold Front post game show, I said, I don't know why they were so hell-bent on trying to set up the run, on running quarterback runs, et cetera, et cetera. But in this game, it was the exact inverse. They weren't trying to establish the ground attack. They were trying to establish their spread pass game. And when the Bills are very comfortable running their 4 wide receiver sets, and the Baltimore Ravens are not. That's really when you're stretching their defense. So, in my opinion, it looked like Brian Dable was really just trying to take advantage of I wouldn't call it a weakness of the Ravens pass defense. That defense doesn't really have a weakness, but they were just taking their matchups. They were trying to set themselves up for matchups. And speaking of matchups and how these skill players perform, John Brown clocked in this week. I understand all of his plays were made in the first half of this game, and they kind of go misremembered or unremembered maybe, and where it's like, oh, John Brown caught 3 first downs in this game. He made 3 big plays. And after the week that he had against the Colts, where he dropped both passes that were intended for him, only 2 targets, no catches. After that performance, and then coming out there and having the performance that he had against the Ravens, I understand it wasn't groundbreaking, it wasn't world-breaking, it wasn't even that to the extent of Stephon Diggs in this game, who had over six catches and 100 yards again. But John Brown clocked in. And he made 3 big plays, 3 big first downs, and then the Bills' number 1 wide receiver also came to play again as well. I sent out a tweet prior to this game that I felt like in these games, like I said, it comes down to matchups. And Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey, they're getting matched up with Stephon Diggs. That's fine. That's why you have a Stephon Diggs. Because are you going to win every single rep? No, you're not going to. They're not going to expect you to go out there and win every single rep out there during a whole football game. But what he did do is he won a lot of those reps. He did a really good job. That is a pro's pro in Stephon Diggs, and he really opens up everything for this Bills offense. And as you could see, he really was why the Bills were moving the ball there in the second half, and he scored their only touchdown. So he definitely played an integral part in the Bills being able to move the ball in this game, being able to score, and the Bills, their offensive performance, they were not. They obviously didn't have a surge in this game. It was only one touchdown drive there at the start of the second half, and they did what they needed to do. They moved the ball when they could, and they scored when they had to. But like we said at the onset, the overall difference in this game was the Teron Johnson pick six. But overall, I'm excited to see what this offense has in store when they prepare for Kansas City.
Yeah, John Brown came alive this week, and it showed the versatility of the Bills' passing offense, because we look at last week, John Brown didn't have a catch against the Colts. Cole Beasley had 7 catches for 57 yards. Now this week, Cole Beasley didn't have a catch against the Ravens. He's only targeted twice. John Brown, 8 catches for 62 yards. And we know how consistent Stephon Diggs is. The Bills' passing offense can beat you in so many ways. I mean, your second best receiver literally did not catch the ball last week. And now your number 3 receiver, your second team All-Pro or third team All-Pro, whatever Beasley was, he didn't have a catch in your divisional round game. And you still had 2 receivers go over 60 yards. Still had 2 receivers that had 8 catches apiece. The Bills' passing offense is so versatile, and that is why I maintain that the pass-first approach that Dable used in the first half was the effective one here, and I think that you should do it again this week because you have so many weapons, not even to mention Gabe Davis, who also didn't have a catch. Gabe Davis was so big for the Bills in that Colts game with all of those sideline catches he made, plays that he made to give them first downs, kept the ball moving. He didn't have a catch in this either. He had 4 targets, no catches. So Beasley and Davis together, 6 targets, they didn't catch the ball. You have other guys making plays when they need to. And the amount of weapons the Bills have to throw the ball to, the amount of weapons Josh Allen, the amount of options he has to throw the ball to is really great because you never know who's going to go off on any given week. It really could be anybody. Diggs gets his catches every week. He's always going to. And then you have Brown, and then you have Beasley, and then you have Gabe Davis and the tight ends and backs out of the backfield and all these guys who are showing up on the stat sheet of the different weeks. But, the Bills would be silly to go away from the passing offense against the Chiefs. They'd be silly to try to establish the run game and think that that's the best way to go about beating this Kansas City team because look at all the good players they have that they can throw the ball to.
Yeah, it's definitely not. I'd expect somewhat of a similar approach against the Chiefs. But let's get into that because there's a lot surrounding this game. There's a lot of polarizing talking points leading up to this game. And let's just get out of the way. Let's talk about the issue between Patrick Mahomes, concussion protocol, the pinched nerve. I know Jeff, have you ever gone through concussion protocol?
No, I haven't.
Okay, well, it sucks. I've gone through it. Enough times. So I don't know. What are your overall thoughts on this situation? Because I feel like some people feel like it's a talking point of, whoa, he shouldn't play. Oh, he should play. Oh, it doesn't matter. Let him play. And then you have Coward out here trying to get clicks and saying we need to reschedule the game if he's not good to go. And that it's pretty obvious that he's just shooting for clicks at that point. What are your thoughts on Patrick Mahomes and his potential unavailability against the Bills?
You've got to assume that he's going to play, don't you? He's the face of the NFL. He's going to play in the AFC Championship game. I get that, the NFL is going to say the protocol is no different for Patrick Mahomes than it is for the 53rd guy off the roster of the New York Jets. Is it really not the same? I get that Mahomes' health and safety is paramount here, but he's going to play. There's no way the face of the NFL doesn't play in one of the league's biggest games of the year. I mean, doesn't make sense? He's going to play. And I think that I'm confident that he will be able to do it safely as well. I don't think it's going to be a situation where they rush him back, although, maybe he would have that option if they wanted him to. They could rush him back. But I think Mahomes will be ready to go. I mean, I don't know. You can't assume you're playing Chad Henne.
Dude, I've seen so many self-proclaimed doctors over the last 3 days on social media. It's unbelievable. It's almost like all these people know like exactly what a concussion looks like. You know, so some of the worst looking ones aren't the worst ones. Some of the ones where that dude got knocked out, well, the ones where he is done, the ones like Mahomes where he got hit, it wasn't even like, you know, like you saw it. It's not like he took a head-to-head contact or anything of that nature. You know, he had slightly a pinched nerve or what have you, but stop arguing that, you know, oh, he shouldn't play. Oh, I don't know how they'd ever let a player play after a week late. Shut up. Stop trying to argue the Bills the way into the convincing yourself that the Bills are going to play Chad Henne this week, because they're not going to. I'm not saying you're wasting your time discussing whether or not he's going to play. You know, I'm not going to speak down to people because that's some people, that's their line of work with their niche in the media. So I'm not going to say that's stupid to analyze or try and diagnose what's exactly wrong with it, because it's not. That's part of people's jobs to an extent. But all at the same time, I'm not going to waste my time thinking about this. I'm not going to waste my time arguing that he should not play. He should not play in this game. Why should he not play? Why shouldn't he play? You know, I understand you need to clear concussion protocol. Okay, if he clears concussion protocol, then what's the deal? I don't care if there's any if they're lying about it or what have you. People lie every day and you don't know about it. So what's the big deal? Why are people so scared of the Chiefs all of a sudden? You know, this kind of goes into my next point, which is why I wanted to start off with the Chiefs with talking about the Patrick Mahomes situation. Is why is everyone so scared of the Chiefs? You know, I feel like every Bills fan out there had a lot to say about the Chiefs after the Bills lost to them and during their 8-game winning streak until it's time to play the Chiefs in the AFC Championship, like we all kind of expected for a long time. You know, everybody had a lot of bark until it's time to bite, until it was time to eat. A lot of people were really looking forward to the matchup until it was time to play the matchup. And it's just, it's off-putting to me because I don't know. It's kind of the same thing that we saw.
Clayton, can you hear me? Looks like Clayton froze up here. I'm not sure if that's a error on my end or his. But anyways, I think that the glaring thing in this game from a Buffalo defensive standpoint is they gave up 245 rushing yards to the Chiefs the last time out in week 6. I mean, that's absolutely inexcusable. 5.3 rushes per carry. The Chiefs ran the ball 46 times. And if everybody remembers, this was a bad weather game. It was rainy. It was chilly. Now, I don't know if that's what we're going to see exactly again in Kansas City this week. But if it is, then that's going to be your number one priority if you're the Bills defense. You need to slow down this Chiefs rushing attack. Now, last time these two teams played, Mahomes threw 21 for 26, obviously really good there, 225 yards, 2 touchdowns, and he didn't turn the ball over. Allen, last time these two teams played, 14 for 27, 122 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick. That equates to a QBR of 84.1. Josh made his fair share of mistakes in this game, and he was a little over the 50% completion percentage. So not where you want him to be in this game. However, I think that if the Bills could just slow down the Chiefs rushing offense in this game, Buffalo's in it. Remember in this game, Josh Allen was barely on field in the fourth quarter. He barely was. The Chiefs had a super long drive to close this game, and Buffalo never got the ball back. The Chiefs drove down the field. They kicked that field goal. They made it the 2-possession game. People forget how close this game was. I mean, it was 13-10 at halftime. Kansas City was leading. Kansas City comes out in the third quarter. They get the touchdown, and then the team's Buffalo scored 7 in the fourth quarter. KC scored 6. So the first thing I want people to remember is that Josh Allen was barely on the field in this game, in the Week 6 game. The second thing I want people to remember is that Matt Milano did not play against the Chiefs in Week 6. He didn't. He was out. He was still dealing with that injury. Also, I don't know if Tremaine Edmonds was 100% against the Chiefs. Remember, Edmonds missed a game in the beginning of the season, and he struggled for a few games coming back off that injury. And now that the Bills defense is completely healthy, we may see them be able to slow down this Kansas City offense. I think that Milano is going to do a lot in the effort to slow down Travis Kelce. And when I say slow down, I mean slow down, not stop, because I don't think there's any way that any team can completely contain Travis Kelce the way that the Chiefs use him in their offense. I don't think that shutting him down the way the Bills did Mark Andrews when Andrews had 4 catches, 28 yards this past game, I don't think that's possible against a player that's as good as Travis Kelce. However, I think that Matt Milano being on the field and Tremaine Edmonds being healthy can help them out, can benefit in their effort to do that. I mean, Kelce was the number 2 leading receiver in the NFL this year. So it's not like he's going to come out and have 20 yards. He's going to get his catches. Mahomes is going to get his reps to him, as is Tyreek Hill. But I think that the main thing the Bills need to do here is rely on your linebacking core and also just hold them under 200 rushing yards this time. 245 rushing yards is absolutely absurd. You guys all remember that game. Neither team could throw the ball. It was absolutely shitty weather in Western New York. Allen couldn't throw the ball at all. Mahomes couldn't either. However, Mahomes didn't need to. The Chiefs used the short passing game, and the Bills tried to do the same thing. However, the Bills couldn't get the rushing attack going like they needed to. I mean, I think that this Kansas City game was really the origin of us being Buffalo media saying that the Bills' main problem on their defense is stopping the run, because they just couldn't do it. They just could not stop the run. The Chiefs were running it all over whenever they wanted. I mean, I go back again to the final drive of the game. The Bills never got the ball back because the Chiefs just absolutely ran it down their throat with Edwards-Helaire and all these other backs that they have. I mean, we know how many explosive players the Chiefs have. However, I think that your 2 big things are going to be slowing down Kelce and backs out of the backfield, tight ends, using your linebackers to do that, and also slowing down the Chiefs' running attack. Now, I'm not sure how long it's going to be before Clayton gets back in here. I guess his internet had a malfunction here. I'm going to give him a second to try to get back in here and see if we can finish out the show. But in the meantime, I'm going to go on about a couple ways here where I think that the Bills offense can make their money, get the job done against the Chiefs. Last time they played, I already said Josh just completed 14 of 27 passes. That was a bad weather game. And I hate talking about the weather. I know we do it a lot, but it really is so important to a passing offense. I really think that if the weather is better in this game, Josh will have more success. Clayton said that he will be coming back in a couple minutes here. So hold out for a couple minutes. Please stand by. Sorry about that, everybody watching. If you were hoping to see just Clayton here and not me, then you're shit out of luck for a couple more minutes. But bear with us here, and we appreciate it. Anyways, the Bills offense really struggled to get things going in the Week 6 game against the Chiefs because they couldn't throw the ball. It was just too bad of weather. And like I just said, I hate talking about the weather every week, but it's really such a factor. And when you have a pass first offense like the Bills do, it really can slow you down a lot if you get things like wind and snow coming in, getting the ball wet. The wind being the biggest thing. We know it's always windy at Bill Stadium. If you've ever been to a game in Orchard Park, you may be able to escape the cold. You may be able to escape the snow. It's great if it's not raining, but it's always windy in there, especially if you sit up in the 300 levels. You know that it's always windy in that stadium. It blows. Who knows where it blows from, off the lake, whatever. But it's a factor. And is it going to be a factor in Kansas City this week? I think it could be as well. I mean, if it is a factor, if it's snowing there, if it's raining, if the ball is going to be wet, Josh Allen's got to figure that out. They can't be an excuse. You can't go into the AFC Championship game and it being bad weather, so your passing offense is ruined and you go back to trying to run the ball 25, 30 times a game. That can't be what we have. I said last week, I want Josh Allen to be over 40 passing attempts against the Ravens. He got to 37. That's close enough in my book. It was 2 more than they did against the Colts. But they were playing with the lead late in the game. So you go away from that a little bit. You don't have to open up the playbook as much. You don't have to go fast at the end of the game. So that slowed him down after Allen was already off to what seemed like a historic amount of pass attempts to start the game. So now You come out in this game and he has to figure it out if it's bad weather. You have to stick to your game plan. You have to try to throw the ball down the field. You have to try to get the ball in Diggs' hands. You have to try to involve Beasley and Brown and use your passing offense. I mean, I know that you didn't try to establish the run game against the Ravens, and that was great to me. But you only ran it for 2 yards a carry anyways. You had 32 running yards on the ground. Now, I think that a way that the Bills offense can kind of get creative this week and maybe break off some big plays with their running backs is not by running the ball, but by using screen plays. I think screens are something that Brian Daboll has utilized to his advantage at several points during this season. And I think that by doing it this week against the Chiefs, it will be a way that they can kind of break up that deep passing game and, appear as if, they're going to run the ball and to break up Josh's dropbacks, maybe even work in draw plays as well to keep this offense going. But you really just need Josh to be able to throw the ball down the field. And I wonder, while we do these shows, while Clayton and I make our notes and while we prepare and we try to get a pulse on what Bills fans are feeling, I wonder if Bills fans are discouraged about how Josh Allen has played these last 2 games. And you guys can let us know in the comments what you think about that. I wonder if people are discouraged about Josh's play against the Colts and the Ravens. I personally am not. He hasn't turned the ball over once in those 2 games. He hasn't been having the production that he did earlier in the year, but still, he's not having performances like he did against San Francisco on Monday Night Football. He's not having a performance like he did against the Patriots late in the year or the Dolphins late in the year when he looked so good that nobody could stop him. That hasn't been the Allen that we've seen. However, he's taking care of the ball, and I think that he's taking what defenses give him. Here's our man back in the show, Clayton Garrett. Just want to finish my one thought. I think that Josh Allen is taking what he's given from defenses. He's not producing at the clip that he was late in the season. Clayton, I want you to jump in on this, mostly because I've been talking for a really long time, but Josh Allen has taken what the defenses have given him the last couple of weeks. He has not produced like he did against the 49ers. I gave the example. I gave the example of the Dolphins game, the Patriots game late in the year, where it looked like Josh just could not be stopped. He hasn't been doing that the last couple of weeks, but it's because he's been playing against good defenses. They have good game plans of how they can shut the Bills down. And I ask Bills Mafia, are you disappointed by Josh's play in the playoffs so far? Or are you happy with it? Clayton.
Oh, that's a difficult question because, yes, I'd love to see him have more statistical output, more consistent output. Seeing this offense perform to the degree that we saw them performing the last 6 weeks of the regular season. I'd love to see that. That's really, we know if that version of the offense is hitting and the version of the defense that we saw last week, if we can get those two to coincide, wow, this is a Super Bowl team. This is a Super Bowl team, like without a doubt. But at the same time, it's extremely difficult to do those things in the playoffs. It's extremely difficult to do those things against a team like the Colts. The Colts who, that was a really good defense. The Ravens, that's a really good defense. The Chiefs, not so much. That's really, but like you were saying early in the show, the biggest thing for that offense, even though they're not scoring that 30 points a game, even though they're not really able to run the ball, they don't turn the ball over. Until Josh Allen starts turning the ball over and it starts becoming a problem, and until any defensive line figures out how to put pressure on the Bills quarterback, which is really what these games have come down to. You even saw with the Ravens, they completely flipped their identity last week in an effort to try and stop the Bills and Josh Allen. That's a team that was sending a lot of sim pressure, was having a lot of looks at the line of scrimmage, but wasn't sending a lot. And the offensive line did a really top-notch job. And that's really what it has come down to, is if Josh Allen's able to have time, if he's able to buy time and then make an improvisation play, which his receivers are very well coached up on how to act, how to make a play in those situations. So this offense not being where it was here in the playoffs, that's kind of what we all expected. I'm not going to say that the Bills had a cupcake schedule at the end of the season by any means, because they didn't. They were playing good teams with good defenses, and they were quality opponents from time to time. But at the same time, everything gets taken up a notch in the playoffs. Preparation, attention to detail, how much time you spend on film, how much time you spend on installation. All those things get taken up a notch. It's a different world as it is this week, going from the divisional round of the playoffs to the conference championship. They take it up a notch. Going from the conference championship to the Super Bowl, everything gets taken up a notch as the competition gets stiffer, as what's on the line becomes more so. But I want to address me lagging out. I'm sorry everybody for lagging out. I saw Lone said I got a cramp. Jeff did a top-notch job. Jeff is performing a lot better than my internet today. So shout out to Jeff being able to take it and run. I don't even know what you were talking about. I was just trying to get back in here as soon as
I don't know what I was talking about either, honestly. It was mainly just, the glaring statistic from the only time these two teams played this year was that the Chiefs ran the ball for 245 yards. That's just inexcusable from the Bills defense. And I also said Josh Allen was barely on the field in the fourth quarter in that game, if you remember. The Bills were down by 1 score. The Chiefs drove the ball down the field and kicked a field goal. And at that point, it was really over. If the Bills defense could come up with a stop in that situation, and I get that, previous things that happened in the game, such as the Bills' inability to throw the ball, led to that happening, to Allen not being on the field late in the fourth quarter. But if he's playing more in that game, I think that he can make some things happen late in the game. He did it against everybody else this season. And so I think that the improvements the Bills have made from a defensive standpoint, protecting against the run, defending against the run, I should say, I think that could be important late in the game, is to where we see if the Bills are down by a score and the Chiefs are trying to close them out, the Bills can get that stop, get Josh Allen on the field, because then you at least have a chance.
Right. And, the biggest difference between this game and the last one is look at the Bills team and what the situation is going into the game. Because the last time the Bills played the Chiefs, it was on a Monday afternoon. I got home from work. This is when I was on days. I got home from work. I came upstairs. I took a shower, and I came down on the couch, and it was game time. It was time for kickoff. It was an early game. It was a weird game, all because of COVID. And the Bills did have injuries in that game. They didn't have Milano fully healthy. Jermaine Edmonds wasn't fully healthy. Trey White had a bad back. You didn't have John Brown. I don't think you had John. I believe John Brown was in a limited capacity. But all at the same time, the Bills weren't what they are now. And right now they feel complete. They feel whole. I understand. Sean McDermott said that Gabriel Davis and Vernon Butler were missing practice today. You don't know the severity of their injuries, so I'm not going to get into that. Rob Roberson, he said, answer my question from the text I sent. I missed the text. You can ask Jeff. I miss text messages constantly. I miss a lot of text messages. So to my man Rob, I'm really sorry. I'll read off his text, and what he said to me: is there any reason the Buffalo Bills can't beat the Chiefs? Are the Chiefs that much better than us to make people highly doubt us? That's what he said to me. And that goes into what I was kind of saying at the onset when I lagged out. I was dropping so much fire that it just kicked me out of the stream. So I'll just pick up where I left off. I don't know why everybody's so timid about the Bills. I don't know why everybody lacks so much faith in the Bills. Is it their inability to stop the run? Is it their inability to run the ball? I don't know. There are things on this football team that are flawed, but I've seen things that the Bills are able to supplement those two lacking areas, efficiently. Jeff, what is it about? I understand what the Chiefs are. I understand how good they've played, how good they played last week. But other than last week, that team really hasn't played all that great for a long time. And with their star player playing where he's at, with the toe injury, with the head injury isn't going to affect him as much as the toe injury this weekend. But, he's not going to be really able to step into his throws the way he likes to. That might take some off of his mechanics, take some off of some of those balls that he throws beyond the 10-yard line or within the 10-yard line. It hurts your mechanics, hurts your accuracy. We've seen how it is with Josh Allen and how they've dialed in on his footwork, dialed in on his mechanics. So I think people should expect Mahomes to not really be 100% in this game, not really have all of the bells and whistles attached and be able to, light this Bills team up. So to answer your question, Rob, I don't know why people are doubting the Bills. I don't know why people continue to question this team. I don't know why. Because if you ask me, their biggest competition in the AFC playoff, well, they just beat them last week. They just took him out of the playoffs last week. So what are you going to do with Mahomes and the Buffalo Bills? Yeah, I know Mahomes is playing, but he's not going to be playing at 100%. That foot injury is going to affect how he's going to play and who he is as a football player. But at the same time, I'm really interested to see what the Chiefs' plan is to beat the Bills. Are they going to do the same thing they did last time? Because I don't think that's going to work. I think that you are going to see two really prepared football teams that are ready to play. And one, it's the playoffs. It's the AFC Championship game. I don't know. It's going to be. I'm not going to say it's going to be crazy, but it's going to be competitive. This is a game, like you said, Jeff. The biggest difference in that game, in the Ravens game, was the pick six, but ultimately the turnover. Whatever team turns the ball over, whatever team forces or makes mistakes, that will be the team that ends up winning this game. And if that team isn't the Buffalo Bills, they're going to win. And if that team isn't the Kansas City Chiefs, they're going to win. It's all about who makes mistakes and who doesn't in this game, in my opinion, as it is for all playoff games.
And the Chiefs have the experience factor in this game. They all were there last year, or at least the members of the team that were on it a year ago as well. They were all there. They all played in the Super Bowl. All those guys, they all won the Super Bowl. They've all been in the stage before. They played Tom Brady in the Patriots dynasty in the stage 2 years ago in the AFC Championship game, and they lost. And then they won last year. These guys have been on this stage. They're used to this. The Bills aren't. This is all new to the Bills, and I hope that the moment doesn't get to them. I think that will play a factor in this game because you got to remember, as well-oiled the machines as these NFL teams are, as much as these athletes are just plugged into systems and they use their natural ability to perform, they're humans too. They're going to have emotions. They're going to be nervous going into this game. I think it's almost unfair to expect them not to be. So I think that'll play a factor as well. But this game could really go either way. I mean, the Chiefs are a 3-point favorite. I think the over-under set at about 53.5, something like that. This could really go either way. The Chiefs only have the field goal advantage because they're at home. If the game's in Buffalo might be a 3-point favorite, or it would be a pick 'em as far as betting odds go. But this really could go either way. It's a completely different game than Week 6, and I'm interested to hear it. If I want to pick the game, Clayton, I want to pick the game. Let's do it.
So, with our picks, I want to give the keys to victory. And on the offensive side of the ball, the key to victory on the offensive side of the ball is maintaining possession. Having that short game, having a short passing attack, not like you had last week. Obviously, they supplemented it a little bit from time to time with Stephon Diggs, but they weren't really getting their short area passing attack going the way they've liked to in weeks past. They weren't really being able to get it efficiently, hit Cole Beasley on those short routes and be able to get I wouldn't say two, because that's more of a rushing approach, but 5-6 yards at a time with their short passing attack. So in this game, I think in order to maintain position, what you lack in the running game, you need to supplement with the short area passing attack, and that's really been the recipe for this Bills offense for a majority of the season. And I obviously would like to see Devin Singletary get involved. I'd like to see him get in a flow to start this game. But that's not what got the Bills here. That's not what got them to the AFC Championship. That's not how they're going to win this game. They're not going to win this game rushing with Devin Singletary for over 120 yards. I mean, could they? Will they? I don't know. But that's not going to be their plan. They have really good wide receivers. Kenny Stills could be up for this game. If Kenny Stills is up for this game, I expect something big. I expect them to use him. I expect him to be a factor. I expect him to be a player in this offense. If you get the defense biting on those short routes with Cole Beasley or with John Brown and Stephon Diggs, you have your tools in your arsenal. You have it all for this game. You may have Gabe Davis limpy, but you have a Kenny Stills to replace him. I'm not saying it's a seamless fit given the knowledges of the offense, but it's definitely going to play a part in this game, having Kenny Stills versus whoever the other receiver would be. May it be Isaiah McKenzie or Andre Roberts. But the Bills' 4 wide receivers are going to play a huge role in this game and their short area passing attack on the offensive side of the ball. And on the defensive side of the ball, it's really easy to come in here and say, stop Patrick Mahomes. But it's a lot easier said than done. It's not going to happen. You're not going to stop. You're not going to shut down Patrick Mahomes. But the key to this game is collapsing the pocket similar to how they did against Lamar Jackson. I know who Patrick Mahomes is. I know what he's capable of doing in improvisation and being able to extend plays and make something out of nothing. I know that. Absolutely. but no quarterback is going to be perfect when he's pressured. No quarterback is going to stare down the barrel of a gun every single time and throw a laser. Is Patrick Mahomes better at that than a lot of guys in the NFL? If he's one of the 3 best players in that stratosphere of football, in that play style of being able to improvise and make something out of nothing. But A-gap pressure, Jerry Hughes being able to win off the edge, that's all going to play a huge role in this game. And the Kansas City offensive line isn't what it was when the Bills played them in week 6 either. This is an offensive line that's going to be challenged by the Bills, I feel like. That Leslie Frazier, he's going to throw the kitchen sink at this offense. And that's really what you're starting to see with the coaching on both sides, which is why I wanted to point that out in my overall point, was you're starting to see that both sides, the offense and the defense, really start to throw the kitchen sink at teams. You're really starting to see an aggressive play style by both the offense and the defense. And that's almost the exact opposite of what we said coming out of the Colts game. I feel like that is what you're going to have to do if you want to win a Super Bowl. That's the identity that you're going to have to adapt to. Not even adapt to. That's what they've had the whole second half of the season aside from the Colts game. Be that aggressive team. Be that team that spreads it out. Be that team that blitzes. Be that team that tries to manufacture your own success. Don't sit back and just let them beat you with 1,000 paper cuts like they did in week 6. Am I going to pick the Chiefs? No, I'm not. I talked all this smack for a really long time, like 2 months, ever since the Bills lost to the Chiefs, and I'm going to maintain that confidence. The Bills are going to the Super Bowl. I'm picking the Bills to win this game. I'll say 34-30.
That's fair. That's fair. A 4-point game. I think that this one will definitely be within one possession, which either way it goes. But I feel like we say that a lot of the time. My offensive key to the game here, as I said earlier while you were off, Clayton, so you didn't hear it, I said that the Bills need to keep the same offensive game plan as they did against the Ravens, and also keep Josh Allen on the field in the fourth quarter. Get him on the field, give him an opportunity to win the game. My defensive keys are, yes, get pressure on the quarterback, and also use your healthy linebackers to make a difference, because last time these two teams played, Matt Milano was not on the field and Tremaine Edmonds was still healing after an injury. Those two are healthy now. Use that to your advantage. Now, picking the game, this one's going to be tough. Like I said, the Chiefs had the experience factor. They're also at home. There's going to be 16,000 people in Arrowhead Stadium. Granted, some of them Bills fans. Bills fans will travel to this game. They will go to Kansas City. They will buy those tickets off the secondary market for outrageous prices, and kudos to them. The Bills fans will travel there. However, I think that the experience factor really comes into play here. And also, people who have been picking the Bills and who have been ranking the Bills over the Chiefs in recent, power rankings or whatever you want to call them, where you say who you think the best NFL team is. The people who've been doing that, they've been saying the Chiefs haven't been beating teams by much. They don't think the Chiefs have been playing to their full potential. When's the last time the Chiefs had to play to their full potential? When's the last time the Chiefs had to worry about somebody taking their spot at the top of the AFC West? When's the last time this season the Chiefs had to worry about not being the number 1 seed in the AFC? When's the last time the Chiefs had to worry about not being regarded as the best team in the NFL? Because they are the defending champions. They have the best player in the NFL. The face of the NFL is their quarterback. When's the last time they had to do that? It's been a while, and I think that's why they haven't been playing well. But the Buffalo Bills are going to force Kansas City to play like that. They're going to force everything out of Kansas City that they have. The Bills are the second best team in the NFL behind the Chiefs, and if they beat them, they'll be the best team. I believe that. I think the Packers are third. The Bills are going to give the Chiefs everything they have. Is this the year for the Bills? I don't know. It could be, but I've got to pick the Chiefs because they haven't given me a reason not to. Granted, they haven't won by much. They haven't been as impressive. They haven't been as sexy of a team as the Bills have, but they haven't lost. They find ways to win football games. They're going to use home field advantage. They're going to use the experience, and the Chiefs are going to win this game 28-25. Just my honest opinion.
There's nothing wrong. I'm not gonna argue with that opinion. I'm just saying. It's just. I feel like we did this another time. I feel like we did this a couple weeks ago, like 10 weeks ago. I feel like it was I wouldn't say it was a similar conversation. The cards were dealt different. The Bills had different health, but you've maintained that position of I'll believe it when I see it, and that's not a bad position to maintain, especially when you talk about a team that has dominated over the NFL for the last year. Gary Rupert's giving a hard time. He's just messing with you. He's not going anywhere. This is a really it's a polarizing matchup. It really is. And it's going to come down to the wire. I feel like it'll come down to the wire. I feel like it's going to be, one mistake is going to dictate this game. A team that if you throw one dumb ball, and like both these quarterbacks, they're gunslingers. They're going to throw it into tight windows. They're going to take chances with the football because they have all the faith in the world in their arms. So you're going to see chances taken. I think you're going to see a lot of running for the Kansas City Chiefs. I think you're going to see a lot of Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Le'Veon Bell. But if the Bills can manage to bottle up that rushing attack and not allow, the 5 yards per carry that they allowed in week 6, then they could be in good position. But, I'm not going to sit here and argue with Jeff over the fact that he picked the Chiefs, because this is a game that the Chiefs very well could win. It's a game that the Bills very well could win. And it's going to be a contest. It's going to be an AFC Championship for the ages. It's going to be one that nobody wants to miss. And it's going to be a fun game. It's going to be one that Bills fans are going to remember for a long, long time, especially if they come away with a win and they end up going to the Super Bowl. That'll be crazy. But, I think home field advantage plays a factor for the Chiefs. That's likely why you saw them so comfortable last week. They just look comfortable. That didn't look like a team that had been reeling the last however many weeks like they had been. That didn't look like a team that had won more more contests decided within 6 points than any team in NFL history. But, I got to pick the Bills. They're playing better football. I really think this is going to be a Josh Allen game. And I feel like every time I say that, I'm not going to say every time I say that it ends up happening. I think there was one time I said it and it didn't. But I know I said it for the 49ers game. And I said it for whatever. But, I feel like this is going to be a Josh Allen game. This is going to be a game where Brian Dable, he puts it all on him and he goes out there and he executes. And he makes it happen, and he finds his guys. He makes the offense move the chains, move efficiently, completes a lot of balls. I think Josh Allen. I'll say if the Bills win this game, he's going to throw for over 350 yards. He's going to have over 75% completion percentage again. That's what I'll say. Because if the Bills are going to beat the Chiefs, or if the Chiefs are going to beat the Bills, either team is going to need their MVP quarterback to do so. That's what will decide the game, the quarterbacks. If Patrick Mahomes plays like the most valuable player in the NFL, then they're going to win. But if Josh Allen also plays like the most valuable player in the NFL, they'll win. If they both play at that level, I think the Bills win. I think I'm pretty confident in the Bills being able to win this game. I am a see it to believe it kind of person, but I'm also a projector. I'm also somebody who likes to try and predict and project and go out on the ledge. So I'm going to say the Bills. Jeff goes Chiefs. It's going to be an exciting game.
Yeah, it really could come down to whichever quarterback plays better. And, Mahomes has been there before. Allen hasn't. That doesn't mean Allen can't get it done. But these teams are really inseparable. That's why I think you give the field goal advantage to the Chiefs because they're at home, they're experienced, and I think Mahomes finds a way. However, I do still have this bottle of champagne ready to break out if the Bills win the Super Bowl in 3 weeks. So that is still on the table, ready to go. However, I think that sadly this could be where the road ends for the Bills, unless Josh Allen has something to say about it. Or maybe unless Taron Johnson has something to say about it.
Bills have had a lot to say these last couple weeks, and a lot of people have doubted them the whole way there. And I'm not saying Jeff's a hater, because Jeff's not a hater. He's a pragmatic analyst, and that's why he's the co-host of this podcast. And, the insight's always on point. He's always I'm not going to sit here and argue about it. I'm not. I'm just going to sit back. I'm going to watch this game. I'm not going to relax, because I'll tell you what, guys, there is nothing relaxing about watching playoff football anymore now that my team's played in the playoffs. There's nothing relaxing about it. It is
no, there's not.
Oh my gosh. It's gonna be a fun weekend, Jeff. Two games. We're gonna find out who squares off in the Super Bowl next week. Hey, there's gonna be a lot to talk about, whether it's the end of the season or whether it's just another game where we're talking about the Bills playing either Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. We're gonna have an excellent show next week. Keep your ears. Stay tuned in. The time may vary depending on what happens this weekend. If the Bills lose, we'll probably be going live and having a show sooner than later. But if the Bills win, Expect a similar time, Wednesday, 10:30. That seems to be what works better for these playoffs. I don't know. They do have that bye week in there as well for media week. I don't know how the whole Super Bowl is working this year because of COVID, but time will tell. We'll see, and we'll let you know what the plan is. But with that, that's the end of the show. Jeff, please tell the people where they can find you and what they have to look forward to when they do.
If you'd like to, you can find me on Twitter at RealJUVEINO. I'm on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. I'm on everything that you could possibly be in, including LinkedIn. I got my usual stuff I got for you. Bonnie's basketball tonight against VCU, and really looking forward to the game on Sunday at 6:40. Thank you, everybody, for bearing with me while Clayton had the technical difficulties. Hopefully, I did my best to stay entertaining. Thank you to all for listening to our show. As always, if this ends up being the last show or we have a game preview to do, then thank you, everybody, for that all season. I'm hoping it's not. Go Bills, and we'll see you back here next week, whether it goes badly or well for the Bills.
Yeah, you guys, Bills Mafia are real champions. I dropped out of this stream. It was the same amount of people when I came back as to when I left out, or as when I left. So Jeff, he's always able to pick it up if he needs to. There's always unprecedented things that happen when you're doing things through the internet. But
that's right.
I want to thank everybody for always tuning in, always commenting. You guys blow up this comment section. It's almost hard to stay up with it. Whether you guys are shooting off at us and how stupid we are, or you guys are just having discussion, which is what we like, which is what we are. At one point, we were those people in the comments section. So every time you guys tune in, every time you guys chime in, it's always we always appreciate it more than you know. You guys are the reason that this is all possible. The Cold Front Report, the Overtime Podcast, all of it. And if be sure to follow the Cold Front Report on Twitter at Cold Front Report, on Instagram at Cold Front Report _Bills News, like our Facebook page, Buffalo Bills Cold Front Report. And be sure to like the Overtime Podcast's Facebook page as well. It's just the Overtime Podcast presented by the Cold Front Report. If you'd like to find me on Twitter, it's at CFR_CLAYTON, and Instagram is the exact same handle at CFR Clayton. But with that, thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe, stay healthy. And this has been the Overtime Podcast presented by the Cold Front Report.